A very good evening to you and welcome to MarketSquare. I'm Olaitan Babatunde and with me is
Olaitan Adebayo.
Good to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you so much.
You look radiant.
Thank you.
All right, so moving to the first headline. In a surprising development, the estimated cost of landing premium motor spirit, commonly known as petrol, has dropped significantly by 20.34%, now standing at 971.57 naira per litre. This decrease suggests improvement in global market conditions and supply chain costs over the past 3 months. However, despite this reduction, petrol prices in Nigeria remain high, leaving many to question why the retail price hasn't followed suit. The decline in landing costs indicates a positive shift in the global fuel market, with costs related to importing and distributing petrol seeing some relief. Landing costs, which includes all expenses from importing to distribution, dropped from 1,219 naira per litre in August to 971.57 naira in November. This suggests a cooling of pressures that have previously pushed up fuel prices. However, this positive development hasn't been reflected at the pump.
Yeah, it hasn't been reflected because looking at it right now, even though the cost of landing petrol has dropped, the fuel marketers are still selling at a high price. And this can be attributed to different reasons based on the deregulation of the fuel sector, whereby fuel marketers can actually determine their own price on themselves, and also the fluctuation of the exchange rate, which we all know that it might be this price today, it might be this price tomorrow. But looking at it, this is a very good thing because we know that fuel price is the petrol is a common factor in it affects every sector of the economy. Once the petrol is high, every sector of the economy is affected from the business aspect, because most of these business they run their operation based on this fuel, and once fuel is very high, most of them tend to pass this onto the customers, and it is really, really bad for people, and especially looking at people how they're surviving in this economy. The hike of fuel is really, really making it hard for them. But while looking at it, this is actually a good news. But then while importing fuel, when we have a refinery in our country, a 21st century refinery to be precise, it's it has the best product, but we are still importing. These fuel marketers are still importing it. But when Dangote said around last week, I'm very sure you read the news when Dangote said those importing fuel are importing substandard
petroleum.
But they have the license to import, because even other countries that has fuel, like Saudi Arabia, they actually import. They actually import fuel to their own country, because fuel has different grades. So they have the right, they even have the license to do that. To do that. But all these fuel marketers, all what they need is for Dangote refinery to give them a fair price, so that they'll be able to patronize them. Because even the fuel marketers actually stated that they will actually import more fuel from other countries and sell at a price lower than NNPC and lower than Dangote. And this is not actually a good thing, because when Dangote actually started this refinery, people were okay, fine, this is actually benefit us. And some people even stated that, okay, fine, fuel start from 200 naira, 500 naira, but that's not the case. It's not a charity case. It's a business venture, and you want to make money out of it. But the only thing you can just do is just make it fairer for these people. Don't sell to them. Sell to them in a fair price, in which they'll be able to when they want to calculate the insurance cost, the landing cost, and also the storage cost, they'll be able to put it out in a reasonable price for the people. Yeah. That's it.
All right. Looking at what you just said, I would like us to see a chart that shows how the landing cost and the inflation rate in Nigeria, how it is affected. Looking at the charts now, the blue line means the landing cost, while the red line means inflation. It's shown on the charts that it has, due to the slight naira appreciation and the decline in Brent crude oil price from $73.67 to $72.45 per barrel, it has caused the landing cost to reduce. This is the reason why the landing cost has reduced. And the drop may not have affected the inflation rates immediately. Definitely, like we can see right now, the inflation rate is still at all high, and people are still buying at a high price. Now, the high food price rate in Nigeria is a factor when it's a huge factor when it comes to inflation rate in Nigeria. Like you said earlier,
yes.
The inflation rate affects every sector in Nigeria. Talk of transportation, talk of goods and services. Inflation affects everything in Nigeria, and that is why, like you suggested, probably Dangote should do a thing by bringing down the landing cost in Nigeria, the fuel price in Nigeria, so that fuel stations in Nigeria can also get from him. And as a result, things will be easier for the people and also for the people
And
in
you
the
should and
government.
you should also be consistent with the prices. It shouldn't be fluctuating like, okay, fine, you actually set this price, be consistent with it, be transparent with it. Don't just come on the news and just say, okay, fine, this is
This is the
what I'm
price.
putting out to
Yeah.
them. Like, be consistent with, be transparent with it. That's it. That's all. Moving on to the second headline. With the recent sharp rise in electricity tariff and a collapsing national power grid, Nigeria is facing a growing crisis. And despite significant price hike by the federal government, especially for band A feeders, who now pay a total of 209.5 naira per kilowatt, the country's biggest challenge remains the frequent failure of the national grid. In just the past few days, the national grid collapsed twice within 48 hours, leaving the entire country in total darkness. This marks the 11th time since January that the power generation has come to a complete stop, highlighting the vulnerability of Nigeria's electricity infrastructure. For Nigeria, already burdened by the high tariff, the regular blackouts only added to the frustration, impacting household, businesses, and industries alike.
Yeah, just like Adebayo Adelabu, Minister of Power, stated that the aging infrastructure is one of the problems we have in Nigeria. Now, imagine using the power plants that we've been using for the past years, and there's not been any new constructions or probably modernizing all those things. That would definitely have impact on the national grid, and also there are some of this power plant that make use of fuel with the high cost of fuel, with everything going on in the country. So definitely we know that all those power plants would there will be pressure on them because the power plant that are not making use of fuel would be used majorly in order to transmit light to the people, putting pressure on them. And as a result, this might also affect this aging infrastructure that we have as it is, and also the policies of distribution too is one of the problems that we definitely
And
do
even
have.
before this last two power grid collapse, the federal government actually promised that it will like fix the issue. But ever since then, the issue has been reoccurring. It's more
Reoccurring,
like
yeah.
the federal government is not doing anything. And this segment we hear from business owners and creative as they shared experiences on how the national grid interruption affected their operation. Take a listen.
Okay, good afternoon. I am a UI UX designer, and so basically at my place of work, I we have daily stand-ups by 11 every day, and we have a sprint, something we call sprint, basically to take a new task and finish it in a week. We start that on Tuesdays and we finish it on Tuesdays, and so I almost got a query because I could not finish my tasks. I missed the meeting, my stand-up meeting once, and the one I was able to attend when the national grid collapsed, I was standing outside in the sun, basically in the broad daylight, having the meeting, and it was chaotic because quite a number of people charging there. I could not concentrate in the meeting, and I was distracting others too, so I had to be muting my mic at intervals. So it was a complete unproductive week for me. That last week I could not complete quite a number of my tasks. My demo I could not present well. So it really took a turn on me, and it had been a challenge for me anytime they have to take the light and then I hear that the grid has collapsed again. However, I sort of feel like I'm looking into an alternative renewable energy, which is solar. And but to simply put, that was my experience with the national grid and how it affected my work.
Yes, so it did. Our chicken yesterday, somebody even came. I'm not even gonna lie. Someone came to come and return it. Someone that bought double sausage and single sausage. He came to come and return. He did not even collect refund. He said that he understand our businesses. Our chicken was bad yesterday because of the whole thing. It was crazy, man. It is well. Yeah, oh yes, it did. Oh, it did. Our light safe to power up our place go because there's no light, and even our rechargeable self there's no light to charge it. You have to waste money again on petrol. That's extra cost. Yes, so you did, abeg.
The life situation has affected me greatly or badly. It's affected my business because I'm into Zobo drink. I make Zobo drink. And for me, I make natural Zobo. So if I usually tell people that if I have to put preservative, then it is no longer natural. And the way I preserve my Zobo drink is to put it in the freezer. And I live in the area where we constantly have light. We almost have light for 24 hours. So I'm in Banhe. So that means we pay for it. So we don't use generator here. We have generator, but we don't use it. I guess when we moved here newly about 2 years ago, we had to keep fixing the generator, fixing it. But eventually, we don't get to use it because we have lights almost all the time. So we didn't bother about fixing the generator, and we were not using it because we usually have lights constantly. So anytime there is no light, it affects my business. I remember there was a time like that when the whole life situation started. My Zobo of about 15K spoiled. Like it was in the freezer. 15K is spoiled because I was thinking that okay, they will restore this light because I believe that in my area, even if they don't give every other person, even if there is no light in every other area, we will surely have light. And I was believing, thinking that they were going to bring the light. And I made the Zobo the day they took the light. So it wasn't like the Zobo was in the freezer already and it was already cold. So there was nothing to preserve it. So it's actually spoiled. So last week I couldn't make Zobo because the old light started, national grid here, and they started between 2 days. The light became something else, and I told myself, because usually weekly my work does not really give me time, so I make my Zobo weekly. So I have people that I sell in my church. So I have people that I sell to. So I have the amount of Zobo I make per week or weekend. So when I saw the whole life situation, I couldn't make it because I'm not ready to make that loss. When I got to church, people were asking, but I told them the whole life situation, I don't have generator. If I have to take it to the place where I want to go and ice it because they have generator, I'll buy fuel, and then I'll still transport myself to the place. Transportation fare in Lagos now or everywhere in Nigeria is on the high side. So how much do I want to sell to people that want to buy it? If I have to include the money I'm going to use to buy petrol and my transportation fare, I'm going to sell at a higher price. And are they going to buy it? So I couldn't make it. So the whole life situation has affected my business greatly. I can't even sell Zobo at the moment because I don't trust the life situation. Until the light is stable, that's when I can make Zobo. Thank you.
So, having listened to the interview from the people, we can see that this has major impact on manufacturing and production of things in the country.
Yes.
Let's take a look at the charts. Okay, so looking at the charts right now, the blue line means the power outage in Nigeria, which has happened about 11 times, like you said earlier. Now, the green line signifies the manufacturing output, which indicates a decline in the output of manufacturing because people basically make use of electricity in order to do most of the things they do. Now, the purple line shows the diesel prices in the country. Now, because people can no longer make use of electricity, they have to make use of alternate power supply to, power their business and all of that. Now, the orange also talks about the SME growth, which is slower. It shows that SMEs are struggling with increased cost and reduced productivity as of the moment in the country. And like we said earlier, that fuel prices in Nigeria and electricity also affects inflation rates. We can see that there's an increase in inflation rates in Nigeria because people have to combine and all these energies in order to power their business and all that comes in. Now, the FDI signifies the decrease in investment, which is the brown line, which shows that because of the instability when it comes to electricity and fuel prices in Nigeria, countries that wants to invest, other investors who would like to invest into the country are not so, they are scared to invest into the country because of the instability when it comes to electricity,
Yes.
because most of these business owners also need electricity to power their business. Now, talking on the solution and what the government can do in regards to this, I believe the government can invest in renewable energy such as solar and wind energy in order to reduce the pressure on national grid and also fuel supply. Like I said earlier, that some of these power plants makes use of fuel supply. So the government will need to provide fuel supply for this power plant in order to make sure that things get better for the people in the country. Now, moving on to the third headline, this is a good news for Nigerians because Nigerians have been partnering with China for over 5 decades now. That's over 50 years. Now, Nigeria and China continue to make waves in the global trade with their bilateral exchange reaching impressive $15.1 billion in the first 3 quarters of 2024, with China's imports from Nigeria increasing by 36.1% year on year. This marks a continued expansion of the economic relationship following a strong performance in 2023 when trade hit $22.56 billion, with Nigeria emerging as China's third largest trading partner in Africa. In a significant development, China Ocean Shipping Company, COSCO, the global shipping and logistics giant, has partnered with Lekki Port in Nigeria to launch a new shipping route. The arrival of EA Centaurus represents a significant milestone for Lekki Port in global shipping and will provide a new boost to Nigeria economic growth. While broadening the scope of cooperation between China and Nigeria across various sectors, Mr. Jin Mingui, China's acting consul general in Nigeria, emphasized that the growth of trade between the two nations is driven by collaboration. With this ongoing investment and trade development in Nigeria is positioning itself as a key player in China's Africa trade network, while simultaneously reaping the benefits of enhanced infrastructure and economic cooperation.
Yeah, this is actually a good news for Nigeria because, like you stated earlier, it's a huge news for Nigeria. But looking at it, China has been a key player, trade partner for many countries, for many developing countries, especially Africa. But when you're looking at it, like China imports more of electronics, textiles, and also machineries, and it exports raw materials like mineral resources, like mineral, oil, and agricultural products from all these countries. But apart from all this trade business, like China's involvement with other countries, with other African countries, has expanded to lending them and financing their infrastructural projects like the railway, the power plants, and this is actually like it's very essential for most of these African countries. Well, looking at it, Nigeria, China is like when establishing this trade, China makes sure that it's actually benefiting from this trade because while all these countries are actually gaining access to the China's financing and also infrastructure, China is also securing resources to manage its own economic growth. But while looking at this, Nigeria is one of the third largest trade partner with China, because when this recent development is a huge milestone for Nigeria in the international shipping. And while looking at it, this Lekki Port, while looking at it, this investment, this trade, and this partnership will help modernize the Lekki Port to a more efficient and suitable capacity. And also, we know we don't really do more of made in Nigeria. We don't do more of, we actually do more of import. We can actually leverage on China's manufacturing spirit and increase our own industrial base because we can, and also reduce our over-reliance on import duties. Another thing is that we can also benefit from the financial support that China usually gives to many countries. We can use it to fund our own our own infrastructural deficits. This actually is a very, very, very good avenue for Nigeria to widen its scope in the global market.
All right. Now, like I said earlier, that Nigeria and China has been trading for the past 50 years, even if not more. And Nigeria is, like you said, is one of the third largest country that China the partner with. Now, they don't just partner when it comes to, you were talking about some things like gadgets and all of that.
Electronics.
There's been trading when it comes to oil and gas too. And then there's also this infrastructure development. And when we're talking about the benefits, like you stated, now this would bring about job creation for the people too. Yes. So not only is China benefiting from this, Nigerians are also benefiting because it is Nigerians that would be working in most of these shipping companies. Now, one of the infrastructure developments that China and Nigeria has partnered and they did together is the Abuja-Kaduna Railway. You stated something about railway earlier.
Yes,
and also there's this the Lekki Deep Sea Railway. That's one thing that beautifies Nigeria. And when you watch movies in Nigeria, this is one of the places that you see in Nigerian
Yeah.
movies, and this was done by China partnering with Nigeria too. So this development is actually a good one for Nigerians because it will create job, like I said, and also it will transfer technical knowledge because it's not possible for you to be working with them and you will not learn one or two things from them.
That's why I talk about the leveraging.
Yeah, so at least this is a good one for Nigerians at the very least. So moving on to the fourth headline, I'm sure you have something for us on the international news.
Yeah, moving on to the international news, we're talking about the South Africa. South Africa's unemployment rate saw a significant decline in the third quarter of 2024, falling to 32.1% from 33.5% in the previous quarter. This marks the first decline in the official jobless rate over a year, raising hopes that the country's economic outlook may be improving. The drop in unemployment comes just a few months after the formation of a new alliance government, which has sparked optimism about economic reforms and boosted businesses' confidence. In particular, the rise in employment across 6 of 10 industries monitored by the country's statistics agency helped drive the positive change. In June 2024, the South African ruling party, African National Congress, formed an alliance, the Democratic Alliance and other groups in order to govern together because each of them do not have enough power to move it, and their main purpose then was to address the unemployment rate in South Africa and also to address the economic reforms, which they have been doing because we've seen earlier, we've seen the unemployment rate has decreased. They provide jobs in various outlets sectors like the community and social service, as well as the construction, the trade, the mining, and the transport. And this has been a huge news for South Africa. But while South Africa, this is actually a good news. But actually, I feel that will this trend continue, or is just a permanent? It's just a temporary situation?
With the look of things, the things that majorly impact a country, whatever, like we've been saying earlier, when it comes to Nigeria, we talked about the energy shortage, and also another thing is the political stability. How is the political stability over there in South Africa? If the political stability is not so good, definitely they will still go back to being unemployed. And then this has to do with, the strategy the person in politics or the person in government is making use of. Now, if you're just basing all what you have, you're basing it on some things that are not relevant or what the country do not need, some things that will not help increase the GDP of the country, definitely the people in the country will still go back to being unemployed. And another thing is energy shortage, like I said earlier. Now, when a country does not have a good electricity or probably there's energy shortage, investors would not want to invest in that country.
Yes.
Even the people in the country who has the money to invest in the country would not want to do that because they know they have a problem when it comes to electricity supply. So they'd rather go to other countries where they can easily invest and there's good power supply. And that is why we see countries like America, UK, we see them evolve and, we see them growing big. That is because there's electricity stability. So people can come from other country in order to, start up something there. But when they do not have a good energy over there, there's high probability. And I think the IMF also says something like that if they do not look at the political stability and also the energy over there in South Africa, there's high probability that they would go back to being unemployed in a short while. But we can only look forward and hope that things get better for them in South Africa as it is, because this is a good news for them. As of this moment, at least we have people with the high interest, with the high employment rates. It means that the country is also having revenues. This also brings revenue to the country.
And also investors into the country.
Yeah, exactly, which is really good for the country. So we only hope well for South Africa as of this moment. Well, that will be all on today's episode of Market Square. Do well to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Olaitan Babatunde, and with me has been
Olaitan Adebayo.
Thank you for watching.
See you next time.